Hey, I'm Scott MacIntyre.
And I'm Christina MacIntyre.
Welcome to the Enduring Hope podcast, where we encourage you to trust God in the midst of every circumstance.
Is there anything in your life keeping you back from serving God wholeheartedly?
This is a great question to ask over and over again as we continually seek to follow Jesus. A passage I love is 2 Corinthians chapter 12, but before we read it, let's talk about the context. The writer is the Apostle Paul, and when we first meet him in the book of Acts, he is a highly respected, well-educated Jewish Pharisee, notorious for persecuting Christians. But after he encounters Jesus on the road to Damascus, his life does a 180. He becomes as bold in his witness for Jesus as he had been in crushing the church. And by the time he writes 2 Corinthians, scholars believe he'd been a Christian for about 20 years.
Even so, some people still didn't trust that his conversion was genuine, and others considered him to be inferior to the other apostles. That must have been tough. But in this passage, Paul really becomes vulnerable.
Listen to 2 Corinthians 12, verses 7 through the first part of verse 9. So to keep me from becoming conceited because of the surpassing greatness of the revelations, a thorn was given me in the flesh, a messenger of Satan, to harass me, to keep me from becoming conceited. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord about this, that it should leave me. But he said to me, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness."
Many theologians and preachers have speculated about this thorn in the flesh. Some have said maybe Paul had poor eyesight, or his health was frail, or there were other problems. The truth is, we don't know the answer.
And we don't have to. The point is that whatever it was, it must have really irritated or hampered him in some way. But it didn't stop him. Instead, it forced him to depend more fully on God. I've shared some of Paul's frustration. I've thought before, God, if only I had 20/20 vision, or if my kidneys hadn't failed, I could be a more effective servant for you. But then I connect with that last verse I read. My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. His power is made perfect in my weakness. In this verse, I hear God saying, Scott, let me work with who you are and what you are right now, not how you wish you were.
All of us have something we consider a thorn in our flesh, something that frustrates or discourages us. Not a day goes by that I'm not aware that Scott can't drive, and it's a problem unique to us that is probably never going away. So whether you've been in a car accident that has left you physically impaired, or you've been downsized at work and your finances are becoming tighter and tighter, whatever difficulties life has thrown at you, remember that God is there with you. He wants you to turn to Him and rely on His comfort and provision.
The truth is that God can work through you and in you as you are right now. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Sometimes we can focus so much on the thorns in our lives that it seems to practically paralyze us from moving forward in our relationship with God and in service to others.
We should acknowledge our thorns, but not dwell on them. Instead, we are called to focus on God's strength that works through us. Here's the rest of this section. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly of my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me. For the sake of Christ, then, I am content with weaknesses, insults, hardships, persecutions, and calamities. For when I am weak, then I am strong.
There's a lot there in that verse, and I'm not sure I'm there yet. But I do know that our weakness is covered over by His strength. What we lack, He provides.
Paul is not denying that some aspects of his life are hard, but he's looking at the whole picture. And in that whole picture, he recognizes God's strength at work in him.
And we can do the same thing. Whatever the thorn is in your life, whatever hardship you're facing, remember that we can still learn like Paul, to praise God in spite of suffering, and He can use us where we are.
So right now, we're challenging you to take your focus off of the thorns in your life and refocus on Jesus. Remember that His grace is sufficient and He can leverage our pain for His glory and for our ultimate good.
If you're enjoying the podcast, would you take a moment right now to rate and write a review for us? We'd appreciate it so much.